Hello everyone and welcome to the Now to Play Games inaugural Game of the Year selection ceremony. We are gathered here today to determine who our collective Game of the Year should go to. Joining me on the selection panel is no other than John.
Hello.
Keith.
Hi.
Rose.
Hi.
And Tim.
Yo.
Hello. Guys, before we get into the thing, how are we feeling? We're here now, it's the end of the year, it's Game of the Year. Are we excited?
Very excited. It feels very surreal, too.
Right.
Where did the year go?
Yeah.
No idea.
I still think it's like 2012.
What was
It
the game?
has both dragged by and just sped by.
What was the game, John, that I brought up on the podcast and you were like, there's no way that was this year? It was something that came out in like February and you were like, no way.
God, what was that?
Can't remember. It wasn't Hitman or anything. It was
I'll give you one.
No, but Hitman was also this
It
year.
was in January.
Give me one, Tim. Give me a brain blower. Mind blower.
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk wasn't this year.
That was
That was
December.
last year.
Oh, yeah, that was December.
Still technically like within the year cycle though.
True, within the year cycle. Yeah,
right.
that's why. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in Jeff Keighley's stuff. Yeah,
Shouldn't be too far ahead, but we're recording this on December 5th just to date this thing. So Halo will not be talked about. Games that have been released fairly recently that we haven't got a chance to play won't be talked about, but...
Well, we can talk about Halo multiplayer.
Okay, that is an option. We won't talk about it. I'm going to spoil that ahead of time, but we could have talked about it, I guess. Or maybe if you want to bring it up with the connection with the other games, that'd be weird. But this is the first time we're doing these Game of the Year selection processes, so I'll explain the rules, specifically for Tim who doesn't know what the hell we're doing. So,
Because I haven't been here.
right, the way
we
we're
pulled him
handling-
off the side of the road. Don't worry about it.
the way we're handling this process is we have a list of 6 nominees that will be discussed on tonight. Nominees were selected by the panel who each got to submit 2 games as their nominations. Honourable mention to Shin Megami Tensei 5, who got cut from the list for the sake of time, and literally no other reason. Over the course of tonight, we will whittle the 6 nominees down to one ultimate winner, Battle Royale style as John would like to call it. Games will be eliminated one by one over a total of 5 rounds. Each round is comprised of a 15-minute long discussion period followed by the voting process. After each period of discussion, each of us will vote on which game we believe should be removed from the current pool of nominees. The games with the most votes will be eliminated. In the event of a tie, there will be a tiebreaker, and I'll explain that if we get to it, but it might not be very likely. And during the final round, after one final period of discussion, we will then vote on who we believe should be the Game of the Year of the final 2 nominees. The final game remaining will be officially declared our 2021 Game of the Year. So, the nominees, without further ado, are, in alphabetical order, It Takes Two, Little Nightmares 2, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Tales of Arise. Which, I think all those games deserve a little round of applause, because they're all fantastic.
Applause. Yep.
Yeah, wet clapping. Let's go.
Yeah, you don't even see your clapping, so it's just anything could be happening down there.
He has no hands.
I will say before we get into the process here, it should be noted that these are all great games and deserve acclamation. Through the selection process, we will of course have to point out criticisms and be quite harsh at times in order to whittle these down to one final game. However, all of these games are excellent and worthy of the highest praise. Do not conflate criticism of the game with criticisms of your taste. For the love of God, that goes for the panel as well as you watching at home. This is meant to be a fun exercise and an excuse to talk about great games and share our passion for them. So at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And with that all being said, I think we're ready to go into the first elimination round. However, I will say this, there is one final rule. I said that each round is going to be 15 minutes. For the first round and the last round, I am upping that time to 20 minutes. Because obviously the first round we have 6 nominees, we'll want initial takes on each one of them, presumably. Yep. And the final round, because it's so important, might need a little bit of extra time just to make those arguments clear. So, once I start this timer, it's going to be a free-for-all. Anyone feel free to jump in with any opinion, yells, whatever. Whether it's a game you want to protect, whether it's a game you want to immediately dismiss, it's whatever. I'm going to probably shut my mouth. I'm setting the timer for 20 minutes, and the first round begins now.
Okay, I have a giant shot to take right now.
Okay, here we go.
Shocking.
Metroid doesn't need to be on this list as much as I love that game, and for one reason and one reason only, and John, you tell me I'm wrong on this.
What's that?
That game would not be on your list if Silk Song had come out this year.
No, absolutely not. It would actually stay on my list because I mean, yeah. So if Silk Song came out, I mean, we could say that Bloodborne 2 could have come out. If Elden Ring could have come out, I can throw any game in there that I want to.
So there is only one reason why I say Silk Song specifically, and it's because in the modern day and age of gaming, one of the game types that we do not necessarily have a lack of is Metroidvanias.
Oh yeah,
it's
100%.
very oversaturated genre.
Yeah, it is super oversaturated, and like the idea behind it is like, well, yes, Silk Song probably will do it better. We'll go with Hollow Knight right now. Hollow Knight did the Metroidvania. That is the tier that Metroidvanias need to be at. I 100% agree with that. Guess what Metroid did? Hit that tier, did a great job at it, gave you a great story, did everything what a Metroid should do, and I think it should be there. I mean, the shoulda, coulda, woulda, yeah. I mean, I probably would have voted for Silk Song and Metroid Dread because they were probably both great games, but not here, so I'm not too worried about it.
So I agree with the Return of the King aspect. I do agree with that. It is just my opinion that like it is an oversaturated market right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even as someone who's never played a Metroid game before, has played several Metroidvanias before, this feels like it stands out amongst the crowd. And I can't really speak to this because I, again, haven't played previous entries in the Metroid series, but the sort of general consensus I've heard is this stands out among even the Metroid series. I think some of the game design and just the way that it guides you with this invisible hand into thinking like this whole world is open, but really there's only like one secret way to go. I felt that so often where I was like, this is magic to me right now. I have no idea how you design this.
What are you talking about? It's terrible game design. They never tell you to shoot missiles at the wall.
That did frustrate me.
Yeah, that one was a little frustrating, and you just kind of got. But to piggyback off that one, and I'll take exactly what you said, Tim. It's a saturated market. Guess what game we're talking about, though? Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
I mean, the long and short of it, no matter what, there could be a billion different Metroidvanias, but what we're talking about is Metroid Dread. And so here's all those Metroidvanias. Here's Metroid Dread. Like, we're not even close when it comes to the concept of there's more Metroidvanias out there. Yeah, there are, but Metroid Dread is the Return of the King. There is nothing this year that came close to it in the concept of Metroidvania. On top of, it's called Metroid. The game, Metroidvania is a class of games, is a genre of games, and Metroid, the original, the OG, the king, is back.
Leveraging the franchise. Love it, John.
What happens if a Castlevania comes out?
And if it hits the point, then I will fight to the death for that one, too. If it doesn't hit the point, guess what? We'll start calling it Holoroid or something like that.
That's an awful name.
It is. That sounds like something you need to go to the doctor and get checked. We'll workshop that.
Holroyd?
Holoroid?
A Metro Knight?
Metro Knight. I'm good with Metro Knight. That's great.
To shift the discussion a little bit, if you want to talk about oversaturated genres, let's talk about a genre that is undersaturated, and that is local and online co-op games. And so It Takes Two stands out this year as
it's so good.
Not only one of the best games of the year, but one of the best co-op games, period.
And Finn, can you even tell me what genre it's actually in? Because it's got all of them.
That game shifts.
It's such a good entry point into all of the genres that it hits.
It just wants you to play, right? It just wants you to try things and interact with things. And it just feels so good every time. Most of the minigames, I don't think there was like a single miss in all those minigames throughout the playthrough. Because you're playing it with a friend, that naturally enhances the experience, can hide some of the, I don't want to say less polished, but less, because you're dealing with so many varied genres in one game, they don't perfect, like Metroid Dread is doing one thing very well. It Takes Two is doing a lot of things, like, kind of well, but there's so much that it just hits you, and it enhances the experience having the friend there to react together and to laugh together.
Yeah, and I will
Just try
say,
and figure it all out together.
while I haven't seen anything of it, what's his name? Is it Joseph or Yosef?
Well,
Joseph.
I pronounce it Joseph, but I'm not sure how he likes it. But Joseph
Okay.
Fares.
I pronounce it Joseph.
All right, so Joseph Fares, like, I haven't seen anything of It Takes Two, but I've seen, what was that, A Way Out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched two friends play through that, and like, so I can definitely understand that it was probably similar, if not better quality of basically the same kind of writing.
As
John,
someone
how
who's
would you
played,
combine?
I played both of them. I played A Way Out with a buddy, and I played It Takes Two with Rose. And I will say, writing, like, story-wise, they're just so completely different. And but they both do something very well where they actually. Well, no, actually, I'll take that back. They're both very different. They both do very well. But what It Takes Two does better than A Way Out is that it truly makes you have to communicate. When it comes to that game, you have to talk to your player two through the whole damn thing. With A Way Out, while it was fun, we kind of knew what we were doing in that sense of like, okay, I go left, you go right, we flank, we're good, or drive straight, I'm shooting. That's easy communication. With It Takes Two, it was a lot more, hey, I'm
There's a
like,
lot of, hey, catch me.
yeah, catch me. All right, I'm swinging. Wait, no. Come back. Okay, and it was a lot more puzzle concepts behind it where we both had to talk to each other to figure out how to finish the puzzle.
Yeah. Come back,
Would
hit the
you-
next vine down for me. I need something else to swing on.
To,
All right.
to some, this might sound like a weird question, but would you say it's more of a game than A Way Out was?
Yes, 100%.
100%.
A Way Out is a very experiential game. It Takes Two is just a straight game.
It's
straight
very
game
much
that hits
narrative. And in terms of, like, I was going to say this, but it sounded weird. I was going to say that the story of It Takes Two, especially by the end, didn't impact me as much personally as A Way Out did. And I was
Yes.
wondering if that was because it's about, like, a married couple and I haven't had that experience, because I've heard from a lot of people that played this game that was like, yeah, it gets, like, so real at points that it gets uncomfortable. And, like, it could maybe impact you in that way if you're, like, able to empathize with the characters. But then I realized that I've never broke out of prison either, so I wonder why A Way Out did that for me.
All right. I'm going to be controversial here. I'm going to say one reason why It Takes Two does not belong on this list.
It Takes Two.
Let's take Dookie. That book does not need to have a dump truck ass.
Are you kidding me? That book with its dump track ass is one of the best things in gaming this year.
Look,
can
we
see how it
shit
gets annoying,
Dr. Hakim. All
Get
right,
out.
Dr. Hakim is the greatest thing on the face of this planet.
Hakim.
Hello, my name is Dr. Hakim. I'm going to tell you how you're going to be in love together again.
He is the video game embodiment of Joseph Ferris and everything that he shows up.
I was going to say, I wonder who he's based on. I wonder who that book's based on. It's so,
I'm
like,
pretty
inspired.
sure Joseph Ferris was the voice of him too.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out, It Takes Two is the only game in our Game of the Year list that is not part of a series. It's not a sequel.
I did not
Not
notice
in a
that, but
series.
that's a good shout. It is, yeah.
This is an IP. It's one of the few of its kind.
Brand new
And
IP, yeah.
the fact that it has been nominated for so many Game of the Years and has been mentioned so many times shows how good it actually is.
We don't talk about Keely's TGAs here. This is ours, all right? Don't
Oh
bring
no,
Keely
I'm
into
talking
this.
about I'm not talking about his. I'm talking about other people that I've seen across Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. Like, I've seen It Takes Two mentioned so many different times in so many different spaces.
All right, well, let me
It's not just
Take Two
us.
Interactive got scared, and that's why they threw that thing
Yeah.
at them too.
reference
So-
to
Yeah,
the-
no,
Take
they
Two
were like,
realized that somebody took the name and did it better.
Yeah, well, Take Two was like, wait, we don't have a game up for Game of the Year, so what do? Oh, let's just sue one of the Game of the
Let's
Years.
let's pretend we own this one. But yeah, like, okay, so again, to shift the discussion, because you're talking about how much It Takes Two has been talked about and praised. I'm going to say what no one else has the balls to say. No one's talking about Little Nightmares 2 but Euros. No
Well,
one.
Because
So-
Little Nightmares 2 is freaking amazing.
No one's talking
have you
about
Seen
it.
the monster design?
No one's talking about this
seen the
game.
monster design?
It's
Like,
excellent.
It takes these things that you already know are a thing, like going to the doctor's office, and just brings back all the childhood fear of, should I go to the doctor's office? There are scary things in there. Yeah, there are scary things in there. Have you seen those amputee patients? Holy crap. And the mannequins? No, sir.
So what you're
terrifying.
saying, Rose, is it's a video game version of the Black Lagoon series for kids.
Sure.
The
I
Black
haven't seen
Lagoon
the Black
anime?
Lagoon.
No, like like the children's books, like the teacher from the Black Lagoon and the nurse from the Black Lagoon, and
I would say it's a PG-rated version of Guillermo del Toro's thought process.
Yes.
That's exactly what I would say. That right there is like the monster design, the character design. It does a
And
good
Mrs.
job at
Franklin.
making. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we can name her Mrs.
The teacher. She
It
is
does a
terrifying.
that's
It does a
that's the one
fantastic
that
job.
has like the snake
Yes,
neck,
with
right?
the neck. With the neck.
Very terrifying.
It does a
Did
fantastic
they-
job of making you care about characters who don't talk.
Yes.
Did they embody the horrific feeling of how big the bill's going to be after the doctor's office?
Yes.
Basically.
The true
a lot of
villain
paper
is
in
the
there.
American healthcare system. No,
Always and forever.
like it's an interesting comparison you could make because, and Rose, I'm interested to hear you taking this either way. But like, did you get? Because they use the same thing in two very different ways. Where Little Nightmares 2 uses your skill as a way to instill fear and make you feel kind of powerless, whereas It Takes Two scales you down in a way to explore a child's life or maybe your own childhood in different ways to evoke joy and let you like relive these experiences. But like, which of those would you say you enjoyed more out of the two of those?
Why am I trying to pick between my two children?
Damn it, I was trying to
Go
get her to
talk to
kill
other
him.
people. This is the first round. This is the first round. Both of my children are making it through. Go talk to somebody else.
I will say, despite
I will
the
decide
shot,
between my children later.
I will say, despite the shot that I took at Metroid earlier, when it came down to eliminations, my first choice was Little Nightmares.
Yeah,
Look,
this was
look.
this was the
I
preamble.
don't know what you
where-
guys are talking about because here's the thing. Tales of Arise?
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
sorry. We need better animations. We need actual facial expressions. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful game. I understand that. But when you sit there and watch the people talking and the only thing moving is their mouth, and it's not in sync, and that's fine because different language tracks, I'm not worried about that. But they have no facial expression at all.
When you watch Twilight
what
and you see more
happened?
facial expression in the actors of Twilight than Tales of Arise, you might have a problem.
So, my only defense of it is the only time, really, that I've seen better facial animation in an anime-style game has been from Arc System Works, with, like, Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball Fighters. Like, literally one of the only companies that I've ever seen get even remotely close to, like, highly animated facial expressions in an anime-styled game.
But not quite.
Yeah, well, and so, like, it would require severe stylization in, like, a different direction, because, like, video games and rendering engines, for the amount of effort that companies want to put in, because that's a big part of this whole thing, is, like, it's just effort on Bandai Namco's part, and, like, for what they're willing to put down money-wise for games, it's, like, damn near impossible to get games of the scale that they're making while getting that quality of animation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Bandai Namco has published Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball Fighters, but those are, like, fighting games with teeny tiny rosters that they can just throw money at Arc System Works and say, do what you want.
Okay, but then how do you explain something like Ni no Kuni?
Which one?
Or maybe so far I've only played the first one. Mm-hmm. I have not played the second one yet. Or things like Final Fantasy VII back on the PS1, where at least we got some eyebrow movement.
I don't know what you're talking about because I have spent a good portion with Tales of Arise.
And it's boring. I played the demo. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know what it is?
I tried
It's
the
fantasy.
demo.
It's
That's
fantasy.
your
I tried the
problem.
demo.
So,
It's welcome to fantasy. I'm going to drop you in with someone who can throw magic. I can have someone who has a shield, and I have someone who has a sword.
None of them are good. Not all of them. Whoever you pick doesn't really matter because we have the cutscenes already made, and you just have to live with it.
Real immersion when it comes to that game where my character actually matters. When it comes to the cutscenes.
I'm going to come over there and start beating you up. I'm a 2-hour drive away.
So,
Yeah, let's go. I'm ready. Let's start the fires.
Here's where I say, welcome to Tim's Action Game Corner.
Okay, let's go.
Where I will say this about every single action game in existence. They have the absolute worst fucking demos on the face of the planet.
This isn't a fighting game.
No, I said
It's
action
an action game.
Action game?
Yeah.
Which...
Man, that sucks then. That's really bad for selling to people like me.
Yeah, so Tales of
Who
Arise...
probably would want to jump into it, but if that's my first concept of a game, then maybe I don't really want to play that game.
So Tales of Arise. Terrible demo.
Okay.
If you play any other action game, Kingdom Hearts 2, DMC 5... If the beginnings of those games were what you were sold on, would you have played them?
Kingdom Hearts 2, or Kingdom Hearts, Rose, you can actually, because I've played a little bit of Kingdom Hearts, but...
I mean, I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts.
Well, but like what I'm saying
Devil May
was,
Cry
like,
cause me in on the first 5 minutes. I'm going to be honest with you.
I also very much enjoyed the fighting style and like John playing the Tales of Arise demo kind of messed up. He chose a magic player that just throws magic instead of actually choosing a melee player. I chose Law, so I went in as slight melee, which is what I like to play as. So Kingdom Hearts was right up my alley because it's all melee.
Yeah, and
a little bit of magic. But the fighting systems through the Kingdom Hearts game, minus that damn card game, just no. Kingdom Hearts, I honestly enjoyed the fighting through all of it. Otherwise, I would not have finished 3 because 3 was boring.
Well, and so the big thing I'm pointing to, though, is, like, the fighting in all of these games, Devil May Cry, Kingdom Hearts, and whatnot, like, they evolve well. Mm-hmm. But what they start out as is not all that great. Like, when you're playing Kingdom Hearts and all you get is, like, 1 to 3 hit combos, and you can't do magic or anything like that. I still
had so much more fun with that than I did with the demo of Tales of Arise. I had more fun with the demo of Final Fantasy VII Remake than I did with the fighting in Tales of Arise.
Plus, on Devil May Cry, there's actually that there was a fluidity when it came to that. I'll be absolutely honest. Like, it might not, the 1, 2, 3 combo and that's all you get. Yeah, that's fine. But there's a better fluidity to that than what Tales of Arise gave to me. Yeah, did I try the magic user? Yeah, I did. I wanted to see what it was actually like because I wanted to bring in something to talk about this. But it was just like, to me, like, and I won't fault the demo, but I will fault the demo because,
You're faulting the whole game based on the demo.
Okay, so hang on.
Didn't you say in a podcast, judge a book by its cover? Welcome to it. I knew you were going to say that.
5 minutes, and I really want to hear what he has to say.
I knew you were going to say it, so I was like, I'm going to hold on to that one, and I'm going to judge it by its cover. Why not?
So, one other thing, I don't think you guys changed the input speed. You can make it so that the input speed of your basic attacks is a 1-to-1 with your button presses.
Why wouldn't it be by default?
That's really not going to... That is not going to do anything for me. I do not play fighting games. I'm never going to know that.
Why wouldn't that be default to begin with?
So
I'm never going to notice,
if I hit a button, I want it to react.
Explain, because I want to know.
So, like... What you guys were probably feeling was like you came in and did this, and the character went.
This is an excellent demonstration.
But that's what I always get. I'm just used to that. I'm not complaining about that. I'm complaining about how the character that I chose, like, how does the party system work? It doesn't click. It's not, and I understand it's not supposed to be an easy thing, but like Final Fantasy VII Remake, the party system makes sense. In I am Sakura?
I'm Setsuna.
I am Setsuna. The party system pretty much works. Again, that one is a turn-based, and I understand that that's going to be different. But the way that the party system in this worked, and
Like, it didn't
the
feel like a
team-ups
party.
and everything didn't
Time.
seem to sync very well.
That's time up.
I'm calling bullshit.
We are now going to the first voting round. Please, everyone, send me your first round votes in the form of a DM on Discord. And I will...
We didn't even talk about everything.
No, we didn't.
Oh, that's
First round
awesome.
probably could have been 30 minutes.
You threw your eyebrows at me when I said I was raising it to 20 minutes, and I was like, no, you don't understand how quick this goes.
Oh no, I was surprised you didn't raise it to 30.
The votes are in, and the first game to be eliminated from the list of nominees is none other than Little Nightmares 2.
That's some bullshit.
Nah, that's
Just
what
so
you
you
get for
know.
trying to call my game bullshit.
All right,
Game
all right.
is bullshit. It's going down later.
First round. First round. A lot to get
To
through.
be fair, Resident Evil Village also exists as a horror game this year.
You didn't nominate it. Didn't nominate it. All right.
Just beat that. That's a great game.
We are
Freaking loved
moving
it.
on.
Beat it 5 times.
We are moving on to the second round. The time for this round will be 15 minutes. And that discussion begins now.
So the last thing I was going to say about demos, and we can move on from this if we want, but Nier Automata has literally one of the worst demos I've ever played. And it's actually the opening of that game. Nier Automata does not sell itself well, and it's like one of my favorite games.
So here's another thing, because me and Tim, we've both played like a decent, or well, a nugget of Psychonauts 2, I'll say.
Yeah.
And maybe you have a better idea of this because you've played the first one and you know how these things go. You were saying how the like Tales of Rise and action games like these tend to start off quite base and simple, but evolve well. And I get the sense in Psychonauts 2 that it was very quick to introduce to me like the scope of like how these things can scale up and how upgrades work and how like by the end of the game platform's going to flow. But in the beginning of that game, like the characters are interesting, the story is interesting, the platforming a bit lackluster, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
the most fun I have had in that game so far is when you're not actually platforming, you're just pressing a button and teleporting somewhere across these little dots. The actual platform itself, and again, like I can see how this becomes better as your like jump range increases and height increases and you get more abilities. I would kill for an air dash in that game. I don't know if that's coming, but I immediately, like, as soon as I started getting control of that game, I wanted an air dash, and I kept trying it, and it wouldn't come. And so that's the example of, like, why that's another, like, game that is quite base, whereas other, like, I don't know whether you want to consider Ratchet like a platformer or a shooter or both, but, like, the first instance of playing that game, it felt right. Metroid Dread immediately, like, while you're quite powerless in the beginning of that game, the platforming felt good. It Takes Two, a little bit less polished than the other two I mentioned, but again, it still felt like other platformers I played. I had a lot of movement controls from the start, again, and air dash. So Psychonauts 2, like right at the beginning, it's like I don't want a platform right now. I just want to watch the cutscenes. But
So-
yeah, I hope that evolves.
I will say I can understand where you're coming from because in certain instances, it feels like an old school platformer for better or worse.
Yeah, you're just like the platforming is more to get you to the next story beat, but it's not about the flow of platforming itself. It's not platforming for platforming's sake, it seems like.
Did you go back to finish Lobato's brain?
No, I didn't. I was just progressing through the sequence of the game, trying to get through as much as possible.
So, that is like something that I give it as a plus because like more than an action game or a platformer, I put it in the same category as like Banjo-Kazooie as a collectathon.
Yeah, and I hate Banjo-Kazooie. That's my
I was
problem.
going to say, hold up.
Okay.
Nowadays, I don't know. Is collectathon a good thing in 2021?
Because the platform is not that good, and there's so much talking in that game, and the talking isn't even talking
You
because
okay,
it's like
Keith?
weird sounds. But like
You cool, buddy?
Psychonauts 2 I could live with What's happening to you over there? Psychonauts 2 I can live with because the characters are interesting. It feels like I'm watching like a kid's movie, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, the platforming does not present itself well, at least in the beginning stages.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I'm kind of like in the same point with you on that at the moment, but like I also love collectathons. So like if you ask the question of should collectathons be a thing in the 2020s, my answer is always going to be yes, because like sometimes you just want to jump around in a world and collect random little baubles. I mean, what's Animal Crossing for? What's Minecraft for?
Would you say you enjoyed like it's not the same style as like Psychonauts or Banjo-Kazooie, but like you're doing a lot of like collecting and stuff, especially if you're trying to platinum Ratchet and Clank, and I found that flowed much better than Psychonauts 2 has led me on.
Yeah, and the other thing with Psychonauts as well is you have to be ready to go in and accept that you're going to backtrack.
No, stop it.
Because I think that's what breaks up. I think that's what breaks up the flow of Psychonauts a lot, is a lot of sitting there and trying to figure out how to get into a place that you're not going to be able to get into. So, like, when you're in Lobato's brain, I'm sure that you saw, like, the picture of the mouth. Yeah. And, like, behind the picture of the mouth was one of the pieces of emotional baggage. But you couldn't get in there. Well, you don't get pyrokinesis till later on.
Yeah.
And you don't even unlock the ability to go back to other brains till you beat the second level.
Yeah.
So
you're saying it's like a Metroidvania?
Well, that's what I was going to say next, is that even the short amount I've played of Psychonauts 2, it has made it much more clear what I can't do in that game at this point. Like, as Tim says, that little painting section, like, Raz will, like, put off one liner, like, I need to be small to get in that letterbox, or I need to be, I just can't get in there, and it tells me that I can't get in there, so I'm like, all right, I'll move on, instead of, like, beating my head against a wall where I did in Metroid. Because that happens
instead of sitting there and
a
trying
lot.
to jump across like a 20-foot gap when you are physically not going to be able to
Instead
without the air dash.
Instead of a wall that looks like a piece of background, why would I even go near there? That's the only way to go. And
so both games have a severe learning curve in accepting that you need to break a convention of your brain. Psychonauts, as a collectathon, you need to break the convention of collecting to learn to just move on and go find something else. Metroid, what you have to get over is saving your missiles. You have to get over the idea that missiles are a precious resource and just fire missiles everywhere.
Yeah. Almost
That
always
was the fun part about it.
Yeah.
All right, we haven't talked about Ratchet and Clank. I know you brought it up, so let us discuss Ratchet and Clank.
So, pluses in my mind for both Ratchet and Clank and Metroid Dread. And if it was on here, it might go to like Resident Evil 8 as well. But I think that Metroid Dread and Ratchet and Clank are highlights of one of the most important things to me in a game across the board. Replayability.
Yeah.
I think that they are games that are short and sweet enough while also detailed enough to give you a world that you just kind of want to go, all right, I will jump back into this. And like they have extra modes, extra difficulties, like new game pluses, all that kind of stuff to really incentivize that. Like Dread has all of the artworks that you get for getting better times for completing the game and whatnot. So I love games like those in Resident Evil that like just inspire you to go back and play it and tackle the problems again and again and again.
That is, I 100% agree with that, because Ratchet and Clank and Metroid Dread are literally the only two games I've tried replaying this year. Like I've hit New Game Plus or a new save file on. So it's definitely, I agree with you there. And like, It Takes Two, as much as I love it, it feels like a theme park where you don't want to go back immediately. You've experienced it all. You saw all the like cool things. It won't impact you the same way on a second go around unless you're doing it years later or with another person. Whereas Metroid Dread, like I was instantly like, yeah, I'm going to do that again because I know so much more now. My skills have improved and I could blast through that game in less time than I did the first time. And I want to, because every second of that game feels good. You know what I mean? Whereas It Takes Two, I don't know.
See, and that's your argument of, oh, it has replayability falls on deaf ears with me. I very rarely go back and actually replay a game. So for me, it has a lot more to do with the story and how it makes me feel. Also, just if I were to replay a game, then it would be something that has a really good, compelling story, such as It Takes Two. If I go back and reread a book or I go back and rewatch a movie, it's because I want to go back and review that. I want to get that story again. I want to be able to see what I missed and what was hinted at early in the story that I probably just blew past, but on my second time around, I actually see that.
Mm-hmm.
Something like Metroid Dread, let's be honest, I don't do platformers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do platformers. Jumping in video games can get very difficult and frustrating for me. It Takes Two was easy enough to jump around in. It really met me where I was with my gaming style, and it was something that I was able to get through. And if I couldn't get through, I had someone there who could actually help me, so it wasn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to pick on my other child after you just cutthroat?
I'm not
my
picking
other
on
one?
anyone. I'm just making a comparison. All right.
I'm going to need you to back off and go talk about some of your
All
children.
right. Well, we never really went into Ratchet and Clank, so I want to go back to that because another comparison I can make is between it and Psychonauts 2, whereas they both feel like, and again, it's like just games of these type have just gotten better and better and better over the years to the point where Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts 2 just both feel like you're playing a Disney movie or a DreamWorks movie. And like they nail
Sony
that
Animation.
vibe so well. What was that?
I said Sony Animation looking at Ratchet and Clank 2.
Like
Also,
gorgeous that game, Ratchet and Clank.
It's gorgeous, and it's literally it is a reason to have the PlayStation 5. It's a beautiful tech demo. It's 100% a beautiful tech demo.
that's exactly
what it is.
I was going to say. I was going to say that exact thing. Like, find me a game that is better at showing off the loading capabilities of the PS5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say in general. I was like,
like in general, like the
Forza.
like the triggers and the haptic feedbacks for the game are pretty stellar. But like, if you want to talk about what's really impressive about that game when you get down to the nitty-gritty, the way that it's loading things back and forth and you're just popping between different areas within split seconds is insane. Especially, Finn, when we go back and play Psychonauts 2, which has absolutely abysmal load times.
Oh yeah,
I've been
terrible.
spoiled
God
by
awful.
the
this
PS5.
generation.
Yeah, and again, maybe I don't know. What are you playing it on? Are you playing it on PS5, Tim? Because I'm playing it on PC.
Yeah, I'm playing it on PS5, and the load times are still abysmal coming off of the SSD.
Because I wasn't sure. Because I was playing it on
Can you
PC.
say that again about SMT5?
Huh?
Did you say something about SMT5 and the loading screen?
Oh, I said like I've been spoiled by the PS5, but
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
hearing that it's having bad loading on the PS5 is
Yeah,
what?
it is a severe detriment to Psychonauts 2's like overall presentation.
I like the first loading screen I hit in Psychonauts 2. I was like, because it reminded me of
Oh,
like,
this will be over in a second.
well that, but also I was like, this is cool. Because it reminded me of like platformers of the age of Psychonauts 1, like just like him rolling around this big swirl. It was like, okay, that's old school.
Yeah.
And after the first loading screen, that effect wore off, and I was like, please just load. And there was, I don't know if you've got this, but there was one loading screen, like they were playing with it a bit with low loading times, because there was one loading screen that was just a goat, and like a really dumb looking goat, and there's no context to it.
I don't think I've gotten that one yet, but that sounds like Psychonauts.
Yeah, it was clearly just for comedic value, but I was like, okay, well, if you're going to have long loaded times, at least make me laugh. But yeah.
Well, and like, I hate to bring it up again because it's not in our list, but Resident Evil, when I played that on PS5, I went and I watched like Maximilian Dude play it after the fact. And I was like, whoa, what is that screen? I've never seen that screen. Oh, that's a loading screen. Because there are no loading screens on the PS5 version. You never see them. So I was just like, what the fuck? Is that a loading screen?
Wow.
Because he
Sounds a
played it
lot
on
like
PC.
you probably should have nominated it. You keep on talking about Resident Evil 8.
It's hard. Don't
Finn,
pull that against
Finn,
someone.
you've called me out for what games I nominated. Can you tell us what each of us nominated?
Do we want to call
Or
that out,
who-
or do we just want to?
I mean, you did. You set the
You
precedent.
straight up called me
You
out.
set the precedent on this
I
one,
did
so
call
yeah, you
her.
need to
I
tell
did.
us. Yeah.
You straight
All right,
up
so
called me out.
very quickly. All right, I'll rattle through this. John nominated Metroid Dread and It Takes Two. I nominated Metroid Dread and Ratchet and Clank. Tim nominated Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts, and Keith nominated Tales of Rise and Shin Megami Tensei 5. That's out
So
in
it
the
seems
open
like
now.
there's only one of those nominations that only one person voted for. All I'm saying. Everyone else, there's a double down.
There's two. There's Psychonauts 2 and there's Tales of Rise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But to get back to Ratchet and Clank, because I want to say it's like the load times are fantastic, and you want to talk about like game of the year, like what it means to you. Like for some people, it means like not only does it have to be a great game, it has to like innovate, it has to build on what's came before it. And while the load times were nice, that was like the only real bit, other than maybe like graphically, that was the only real bit of innovation I saw in Ratchet and Clank.
So,
because the rest was just
I'll-
a really well polished Ratchet and Clank game. Because I hadn't played it since the PS2 days.
Thank you. That's actually what I was about to say. Is it? I don't know. I'm playing it right now on YouTube, and I've never played a Ratchet and Clank game, and I'm like, cool. I'm playing a game that Sony Animation put together, and that's fun. I don't have any real affinity to that concept. Like it's just I know it's just a rat-looking thing with a robot friend and another hot rat-looking thing who has an arm chopped off.
They are
Time's up.
Lombaxes.
Time's up. Yellow card.
I will say, John,
Yeah.
I don't think going back and playing the older games would be a bad experience, but it is rougher compared to.
Well, I mean, especially if we're talking about
Yellow,
loading
yellow
times.
card.
Like, I mean,
No discussion outside of the approved discussion period.
Oh, I'm not necessarily trying to talk about Rift Apart. I'm just trying to talk about old Ratchet and
That's
Clank games.
I don't know, man. Seems shady. I think Keith's at the bathroom. Or needs
I
the bathroom.
need to.
All right, Keith can go deep on it. I'm so glad that's recorded. This is so much better than this old setup. After the votes have been tallied, the one eliminated from this round is Psychonauts 2. Great game. I've enjoyed it
And-
so far. I'm sure we'll enjoy it more. But
I can't wait to
If-
jump into it.
Are people willing
Honestly,
to? Are people willing to divulge their votes?
No, that's a secret vote, dude.
That's cheating.
I won't say
That's
it.
cheating.
Yeah, I won't say anyone. It could reveal upcoming stuff. I think John has cards or whatever up the sleeve, apparently, like based on it.
I didn't wear a long sleeve shirt. Shit. I don't have cards.
I'm going to say, for myself, even as the person that nominated it, yes, I voted it off.
Okay.
That was interesting to see that come through. It's probably, yeah, we're all gonna have to do it at some point, or except for one of us.
Yep.
So, let's see. Okay, we're ready to start the next round. This round is also
So-
15 minutes. Let me get the timer up first.
And
before
let
we
us know. Let us know what we got left.
Oh, okay. So as it stands, we have It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Tales of Rise.
Okay.
And the timer begins now.
Why can't y'all let me have this?
So Tales of Rise got further than I thought it would at this point.
I mean this in the most loving and kind way. I need you to pick better games.
Oh my god.
And screw you, you haven't played it.
I did the demo.
The demo was an
I played the
alpha
demo,
build
which
2
is
years
more than I
old.
played of almost any of the other games.
An actual point of criticism of the final game. And this, I understand why this is, but it's still reality nonetheless. So, like, based off what I know of the Tales of Rise series, that they have been wanting to, like, go this whole new direction for the series, but have ended up being very samey over the course of them until Tales of Rise, which seems like a big change for the series.
Yeah.
as a result of that, I believe, and Keith can correct me on this, that they have a new engine for it. Do you know that? I think I heard that.
Tales of Arise was using Unreal, I think.
Was it? Oh, okay. So they switched to Unreal from the engine they had previously, and I believe that was like a big point for them. But it seems like there's a little bit
what you're saying is they had an engine that was strong enough and powerful enough that they could have had facial expressions?
No. They ditched an old dedicated game engine. I'm looking at the article right now. So they had a dedicated game engine
so
for the
previous
Tales
games
series.
had facial expressions?
What Rose is saying is that because you're now using Unreal Engine, you can like do the same stuff as. Does RE8 run on Unreal? Did I remember that? No, it runs on RE Engine. I'm stupid.
Yeah, the RE Engine. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like there has been a little bit of not problems, but like just getting used to the new engine and this whole new way of Tales of Arise. Like, even from the footage I've seen, there's a lot of texture pop in, and a lot of just like things not colliding right. How do you explain that?
Tim, Tim or Keith, let's go. I'll back off.
So I was gonna say it is utilizing Unreal 4.
Mm-hmm.
I am also going to say, along with that I want you to find me outstanding uses of facial animation in any other Unreal 4 game that's not made by Arc System Works.
I need to refresh myself on what's in Unreal Engine 4. Are we talking exclusively anime style? Or are we talking...
No, because I was going to say, don't give me Borderlands, because Borderlands has ass for facial animations for the most part.
Final Fantasy VII Remake was done in Unreal Engine 4, as was Hellblade Senua's Sacrifices, possibly the best facial animations of all time.
Ooh.
Okay.
Sean felt that one.
Oh, that hurts me, and I'm not like I don't give a damn about this game.
So yes,
you said Dragon Ball
but that's
Fighters,
why I said no. That's why I said not by Arc System Works.
Right, got it. Yeah, but Hellblade, you can't.
So here's another challenge on top of that. Then
okay, all right.
Find ones where they had to make the facial animation from scratch.
I mean, would you consider mocap from scratch?
What?
Yeah, I mean, mocap from scratch is like a spot, so you'd be making it from scratch.
Wait, no.
So
Are
in
you
answer to
trying
your
to say
question,
that animators do not use facial expressions? They don't. They just pull shit out of their mind and they never look at a face?
that is not what I'm saying.
Because every single artist that I have ever seen has a reference.
So
All of them.
I am not saying to ditch reference. I'm saying that an anime game does not get to modify pre-captured mo-capped facial expressions.
Okay.
Unless you're Keith.
So, my...
Oh, God, this is great. This is awesome. I love this.
So
my
case is more about the nature of having to make animations from scratch because you're not using realistic human faces.
So you're saying that movies need to, like animated films, need to start having fewer facial expressions, and DreamWorks is doing an awful job.
Yeah, because those aren't mo-capped.
Or
So then-
maybe just anime in general.
So then, well...
Let's just look at anime.
So yes, let's look at anime where actually
let's go ahead
the practices...
and look at actual anime, like
Yes.
the series,
So-
and let's look at how many of them have facial expressions. Oh, that's
so-
right, all of them.
So to every single person watching this video, go look up @UUCow on Twitter, and go to Sakagaboru and look at their talks
so many
about
words.
and look at their talks about facial animation and the techniques used in Japanese animation to save on frame pricing by keeping a still image of a head while only moving specific parts of the frame.
I am aware that it is much cheaper to do things that way. But
And
when you
so-
also have something like Avatar: The Last Airbender that has decided to take so many movements.
We're comparing apples with oranges
So many
here.
movements.
We cannot compare, like, if we're comparing, like, yeah, Ratchet and Clank had great animations, but was it as good as Toy Story 4? Probably not, you know what I mean? Like,
And
you can't
so
compare
here's-
those two things.
Here's the other thing if you want to talk about Pixar versus Ratchet and Clank versus Bandai Namco. I want you to find me the budgets on a Pixar movie versus what they were on Ratchet and Clank versus what they were on Tales of Arise.
Right,
What
but we
engine does
don't.
Sega use?
Depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about Yakuza, they use the Ryuga Gakuto engine.
No, I'm not talking about Yakuza.
So
I'm
if
talking about Demon Slayer.
if I can interject, right? It seems that
Yeah.
Keith's experience of Tales of Arise was not impacted by the facial animations. At least not a lot.
Yeah.
Keith, can you please extol, because I don't think we've covered it yet, and we're 3 rounds in, can you please extol the virtues of what exactly it was about Tales of Arise that made you nominated for Game of the Year? So we can address those. Cool, thanks, Keith.
It's just a good game. Jeez. I
will
You're
also
supposed
say-
to come with reasons why you nominated these games.
Yeah.
So here's one thing I will say.
No,
I want Keith-
wanna hear
Keith
from
nominated.
Keith.
I
I
wanna hear
really
Keith.
do want to
I
hear
wanna
from
I
hear
Keith.
from
really want to hear
Keith.
Keith's.
Listen, it is one of the first. God dang it!
Jump,
Facial
please.
expressions. One of the first.
If only facial animations really worked.
Right?
Keep it together.
I'm sorry. I love you, Keith.
So Tales of Arise is one of the games in the series that have had their most recent issue in games. It's one of the first that actually allows me to experience the story through the gameplay.
Okay.
In
Like
what way?
most of the previous.
Is it dialogue through combat, or is it like the way you interact with the world or the combat? Does that like reveal things about the story or advance it?
It advances it in a way because as the story progresses, you obviously are getting stronger through leveling up, but certain story events will give characters specific power-ups
Okay.
and unlock new systems as you go.
Right. So yeah, it's encouraging
else-
to
what else-
experience more
what-
of the game for the sake of upgrades, but bundling story in with that, right?
Yeah, so like I can give testament like very beginning of the game, and the demo doesn't really give you any even relative inkling of this. So the big issue in Tales of Arise is slavery. That's the main title issue of the game. So Shion, the girl with the gun, and then Alphen, the guy with the flaming sword. Shion's from the like oppressing race. Alphen is found at the beginning of the game as a slave who's lost all of his memory. And he has no ability to feel pain. So that means that he is the only one who can touch Shion because Shion literally injures anybody who touches her because of a spell that's been put on her. And her greatest power, which is this flaming sword that can come out of a core that's embedded in her chest. The only one who can use that sword is Alphen, because even though it burns him, he can't feel the pain. So this person of the higher race has to rely on the slave to be able to use the true extent of her power. And it creates a unique relationship and dynamic between them. Also, because Alphen doesn't really like hold any hatred towards people in his heart, like implicitly. He doesn't believe in like the idea that Shion's a bad person because of her race. And like he sees new technologies and she's like, how can you compliment these technologies? They're ours. Like they're the race that has treated you so poorly. And he's like, technology's technology. Like,
That
it
was in
doesn't
the
matter
demo.
who made it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that part was in the
couldn't
demo.
remember what.
Actually. Yeah, that part
And,
was
like,
just in the demo. I was like, yeah, that actually is kind of a cool.
Cool. Internet can come after me for this one. But World War II led to so much of our modern medical advancement that, like, that's something that's reflected in the real world. The idea that, like, technology is sometimes a product of people that we don't like, but then that technology ends up being something that benefits everybody.
Nazis sent you all to the moon. Like, you know?
Yeah.
It's true. But
Sorry,
But-
you were talking about the flame coming out of the heart, and all I could think of is Scott Pilgrim has learned the power of self. So I was like, that's why I was laughing. I was like, that's all I could think of when it came out of his heart.
there's
Scott
something
Pilgrim
in there, and I
learned the power
think
of love.
Rose and I were laughing for the same reason. It's when you talked about the sword coming out of her chest, right?
That's exactly. I was like, that's all I could think of
This
was
is the
Scott.
thing.
No, Finn and I were on a much.
Yeah, I've seen like this done well before, because I think about Valkyria Chronicles 1 and how well it was able to tackle the issue of the Holocaust, and completely separately would do the dumb anime bullshit like beach episodes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's sounding like Tales of Rise might, like, how does it handle this, like, very touchy, because that's a hard source material to go after, and like you don't have to go after that in your storytelling, but when you do, you have to make sure you do it right.
Yeah, well, and so, like, they definitely have characters that are, like, I hate these people. Like, from both sides, they're just like, I hate those people because of whatever reason. Like, John, the character you played as, I'm guessing you played as Rinwell in the demo?
Sure. Was she
The
a little one
girl
that threw
throws
stuff?
magic.
Yeah, with the cloak.
Yeah.
And the owl.
Yeah. So you meet her and Hootle, and, like, first impression of Rinwell, like, Rinwell seems like a nice girl when you're playing as her in the demo, right?
I
Like
I couldn't get a feel for it. That is kind of where my issue is. The
Well,
whole thing.
like-
I couldn't get a feel for any character in this thing. That's why I'm coming after it like I am, because and again, it's a demo. You did a better job explaining the game to me than the demo. But the problem
Yeah.
with that is when we are here and we're talking among friends, that's fine. But the demo of the concept of the whole thing, if it's trying to sell it,
Yeah.
it didn't do a good job. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, and as Keith was explaining it, I was like, insert any anime game and that's it. While Keith was explaining, that's anime game. I mean, I can copy and paste most anime games, and what he said is exactly that. What you said, that's compelling. That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
also still cool. Like, not
And-
the story, but how you explained it.
And, like, so Rinwell, I would describe her character in the demo as, like, kind of bubbly. Almost like she's almost like an older sister kind of character, whereas Kisara's, like, the mom character. But you meet Rinwell, like, I literally just met Rinwell while playing the game, and I was like, damn, this girl's a bitch. Like, that was my very first impression of her, because she comes in and sees Shion, and she's like, what the fuck is that thing doing here?
Jeez.
Like, it's immediate animosity, which is, like, nowhere near what's in the demo. Like, by the time you get to the demo, they're, like, a relatively stable group of comrades.
So let me ask you a quick question on this one then, and Keith, please chime in too. Would you consider this a niche kind of game then? Like, or is this something that people should actually kind of give it the time to play? Or is it the idea that people will get turned off because, and I'm not trying to piss off anyone, and I know I'm going to. It's an anime game, and I have no problem with anime games, but with the idea of the copy and paste of what was said, minus what, I'm taking out what you said, Keith, I'm going to be honest. But it is, that's compelling enough for me to at least give it a shot when it's on sale. But is it a game that should be experienced, or is it just because of we see what happened at the other Tales, and this changed enough that it made it a good game?
Honestly, I think it is something that people should experience. It is a return to form.
But if we don't know
Bob.
the form, explain the form concept.
A return to form, as in taking examples from the older games.
Okay.
The newer editions tried things new, and they didn't really work out, and it didn't serve in enhancing the story.
So not to step on you, but like,
No, yeah.
as someone who, like, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Ratchet and Clank, love these games. As someone who's never played a Tales game, like, what, like, I'm really I need to find, time. That hurts. That stings. All right. Please, once again, send me your vote with the number and the game you would like to vote out this round. I can now reveal the results of that round.
Yeah.
And based off of everyone's votes, the next game to be eliminated is Tales of Rise. To no one's surprise.
I will
Not
say,
meant as a shot,
like,
just we were talking about it a lot that round. I don't think it was going to go any other way, and I really wanted to get something out of that.
I will say, to steal a line from Final Fantasy, I do think Tales of Arise is a Tales of game for fans and first timers.
Okay.
And with that, we're gonna move on.
I will
to-
also say it's probably like Ray Chase's like best performance that I've seen. Much better than Noctis. Much better.
Yeah. All right. With that, we're going to now move on to the next round, and that begins.
You want to wait?
Oh,
What?
You want, what games
what
are
are the
left?
games? Come on,
okay,
you gotta
we're doing this
keep
every
everybody
time.
up.
Okay. We're doing this every time. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So the last 3 remaining games of the original 6 are It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And
That's a tough group.
dude, this is where it gets really tough for me. So that round begins now. So discussion can start. I have no idea where to go. So for me, so we've already put it out there. It Takes Two, Metroid Dread and Ratchet and Clank were my 2 nominations. It Takes Two was right up there with Ratchet and Clank. I have no idea. But for me,
And I have a strong feeling that the reason It Takes Two wasn't on my list of nominations was simply just because I didn't play it or see it played through.
right, yeah, that's the thing as well. That's one thing in It Takes Two.
I have a solution for you. You can go to youtube.com/couchpage and there's this whole playthrough.
But you can't.
I have another-
You might get a little upset at some of the ways that I play the game because I'm not very good all the time, but
To be fair, though,
it's out there.
Do we just want to have me watch all that during the discussion right now?
Yeah,
You don't
we
want
can do
it's
that.
like
yeah.
yeah,
Look,
you can
look
if you
at
want to.
first
It's like
minute.
I'm gonna
30
tell you-
episodes.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is the game where you can Mortal Kombat fight a squirrel while you're riding on a plane.
It's pretty
So I
kick-ass.
can
The plane, by the way, is made out of your husband's boxers.
So you're saying with the squirrel, I can rip its head open at the jawline and then pull its chest apart?
Absolutely. Joseph Ferris doesn't give a shit what you do.
Here's the thing, right?
know-
And this brings up a great point, actually, because there's so many great moments and experiences that can be shared in It Takes Two. But if you don't go with Rose's solution, which I wouldn't because you don't get the interactivity, right? It is a game that inherently locks out some people just because either they don't have friends who like to play a lot of games or can't schedule time with friends because of busy work schedules, right? It is a game that naturally, you have to schedule time with someone. And if you don't have a significant other or a roommate or something, it can be really hard to do that in today's day and age. So it kind of does lock out a lot of people.
That's actually a good point for you with me, because that actually kind of locks me out because I work a restaurant job. So
Look, you
that
sit there and you
schedule's-
play the same game 5 times over.
Right, but he
So
doesn't.
you
did
cannot
say
tell
that.
me that you don't have time.
He does that in his
Plus,
time.
I have heard
time.
how many times you have been on a call with your friends so that you can play games or talk or whatever else. Also, It Takes Two, it's such a good game to have that shared experience.
Yeah.
And I understand the concept of lockout. I voted for it too, and it's mainly because of the experience. Because it's the idea. We have this idea of massive multiplayer games and living online games and all this crap, and then we have the concept of a lot of people still saying single player is dead, even though that's pretty much what Sony does. And we got 2 single player games in this list right now. What It Takes Two does actually makes it where you have a co-op experience. And here, let me throw this one out here too. It's a co-op experience that is technically one person pays and one person is free. You don't have to buy the game. I will say right now, if you want to play it, you have a PlayStation 5, I have a PlayStation 5. I didn't use my buddy code. That's the thing. There's that idea that it doesn't, all these games cost $60. If you wanted to go in with a friend to schedule time, it's $30 each. Mm-hmm. Which makes and you get to go through all sorts of different styles of genres of games. What is Metroid? It's a Metroid game. It's a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
What is Ratchet and Clank? It is a collectathon tech demo of showing the power of the PlayStation 5. What
Don't
is
forget that it's also a third-person shooter.
It's a third-person
with
shooter.
a massive arsenal.
Yes. What is It Takes Two? It is a collection of. It is an amalgamation of different genres of games that shouldn't work together, and it 100% does. Is it rough around the edges? Yeah, it's rough around the edges. but is it the idea that it actually comes together and works and tells a very compelling story with a sexy book? Does Ratchet and Clank have a sexy book? I don't think so.
Oh my god.
Do you get to see some ass from that book?
If you want to talk to the internet about what they find sexy in
please.
Ratchet and Clank, that's your bag.
Please, don't bring this here.
No, I know. I know what it is. I'm pointing this direction because I know what someone said. I don't know if I'm pointing to Finn right now, but
For me, Finn's up there.
oh, Finn's up there. Finn's right there to me. So.
It's up there to
For
me.
me, you're all
I
pointing
saw
in the
your
wrong
tweet.
direction, but that's hilarious.
I saw your tweet. I get it. I'm no shame. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying,
What did I
sexy ass
tweet?
book.
Finn, when Ratchet and Clank came out, you had some fan service for
Rivet. Like to the sense of Rivet, I will die for you.
Right, because she's awesome. She's the
I will
wanna
die
hang
for
out.
you.
I want to
because-
hang out with her.
because she's
I
awesome.
want to have
die
a beer
for
with
you,
her.
Rivet.
She's awesome. She's such a badass. I was gonna make that point anyway. Rivet and Kit, two characters that like you've seen cartoons before when they introduce like a weird new character, especially when they do like the gender swap thing. It can go really wrong. It can seem really pandery.
Rivet
This was
is literally
perfect.
better Lola Bunny.
Rivet and Kit. I want the next game. I want the next game to be Rivet and Kit. I'm not even going to address what Tim said. I want the next
Who's
game to be
Kit?
Rivet and Kit. Kit is
We're not very far in it. Who is Kit?
maybe I shouldn't spoil that, but
You'll meet her as
Yeah.
Ratchet like within the first half of the game.
Okay, I can only assume that Kit is the female answer to
well,
Clank.
yes, okay,
Essentially.
that was pretty obvious. I'm sorry I spoiled that, I guess, but
Son of a bitch! Not playing this game now.
but for real though, like they, as someone who hasn't played Ratchet and Clank since PS2, and like they were so snarky back then. Rivet and Kit were such a breath of fresh air in this game. Like they're so optimistic and actually, well, yeah, but like they're such like I liked those two pairing more than the original pairing, and that was
Yeah,
very
it's-
hard to do going into this game. And I
it's
didn't
a
think I
weird-
would like that.
It's a weird testament to like the evolution of Ratchet and Clank too, because Rivet and Kit are very much like a callback to what Ratchet and Clank used to be like.
Yeah,
Because like I didn't know going into Rift Apart whether or not it was a sequel to the reboot, a sequel to the originals, just another reboot in itself. And eventually you come to the realization that, okay, it's a sequel to the original games. So it makes sense that like Ratchet has kind of toned down over time as he's become more responsible and whatnot. And it's cool to see that evolution and then see another character that's a direct like, hey, remember, this is what he was kind of like way back when he first started and was
Yeah.
kind of a little shit.
and
Remember when he was cool?
so much goes to the performance of Jennifer Hale with Rivet. Like she just makes that character
Yeah.
so much.
Also,
So
I just have to say, when you get to the Lombax planet and you get to discover the little orbs, find every single one because both of you will love every single little bit of nuggets that are dropped in
The
those
orbs
things.
are
You will
fantastic.
love them.
Yeah. So many of the collectibles, all of the collectibles in Ratchet and Clank were great. The
Yeah.
golden
So-
bolts, like, oh, it's just awesome.
So I'm hearing a lot of love for Ratchet and Clank and It Takes Two, but let's go back to how difficult it is to figure out what walls to shoot in Metroid.
So here's the thing.
And the difficulty spike with Metroid.
This is where it comes.
and how like Metroid is a very specific, very like skill-based game, and it's not great if you're not good at jumping in games.
So here's
and I
the
was-
thing, right?
Like you have this level of skill that you have to have, and like I feel like Game of the Year should really be something that is very inclusive and something that anybody can get into, including
John, you
Right,
and
okay.
me.
somebody who
okay.
is a little bit lower like
So
me.
here's
And like, don't get me wrong, Metroid is a beautiful game. It tells an okay story, I guess. I'm still not entirely sure.
Metroid
Not-
Dread
but,
was not
like-
nominated by me because of the story, but not by a long shot.
But like,
Here's the thing.
I mean, it was fine.
This is where it comes down to what does Game of the Year mean to me, right? Because I look at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I see a game that does something like pretty well for everyone, right? Whereas I look at Metroid Dread and It Takes Two, and I can compare them in different ways. They are both unapologetically like going for something that won't appeal to or that can't be enjoyed by everyone, right? It Takes Two, I talked about the concept of it's a co-op game. It doesn't care if you like giant multiplayer games or single player games. It is what it is, and it's unapologetic.
Talk to me about the when it comes to Ratchet and Clank. Talk to me about these collectibles, because it seems like you're really into these collectibles. And it seems like something like I should have. I would understand.
John, don't change the subject from Metroid Dread.
No. I'm not. What I'm attacking is this concept of it's good for like Ratchet and Clank is good for everyone, and I'm going to say no, it's not, because you two are kind of gleaming about the idea of what it's become, and me coming from a game that I've never played before in my life. It never appealed to me on any PlayStation console, and I've had all of them, and I never played one of those games because it never really fully appealed to me. So this idea of the collectibles and all this stuff, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to figure out if that is actually something I want, or does it go on its own merits? Am I having fun with it? You're 100% correct. I'm having fun with it. But when it comes to appeals to everyone, you know what it does? It makes it fun. It makes it easy, but it's a lot to take in all at one time. Rose, you're everyone. Would you play Ratchet and Clank?
I would play it over Metroid Dread.
Oh, why do you have to do this?
If I was given a choice between the two games,
So, John,
I am more likely to play Ratchet and Clank because at least it gives me a through line, and I don't have to try and talk to chat and figure out which wall to shoot.
So, John,
Dead to me.
Those collectibles,
Yeah.
those collectibles aren't for Ratchet and Clank fans.
What are they for?
They are for video game fans. They are for PlayStation fans. They are for fans of everything from Zelda to what's the game Insomniac made not for Sony? Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive, yeah.
Yeah, like fans of Sunset Overdrive, fans of Zelda, fans of old school PlayStation.
Okay.
Like, there is literally something in here for everyone.
And importantly,
Even
because like
people that like some of the most unsuccessful PlayStation games ever.
Okay.
yeah, and like because me and Tim are those kind of people that like checking off lists, and checking off lists feels inherently fun, and collecting things is inherently fun.
Santa.
There's nothing that like forces you or like even like holds you back from not like going after those collectibles, and that's why I said it's for everyone, because by no means do you even have to go for those. Like, the reason I say it's for everyone is because it is the closest thing I've ever felt to a game playing a Disney Pixar movie, and it's really just like perfect for that experience alone. But if you go further and collect all the stuff, like, you get so much extra stuff, and like beyond it just feeling good to collect the extra bolts, you get like all the extra stuff you do get for collecting these things are just like bits of lore, or like options for like skins for your weapons or stuff, or like big head mode. Yeah, things like that, you know what I mean? And that's like for the ones who like replay these games and love platinum games, but by no means are they like the heart and soul of the game. Like, for me, the heart and soul of the game are the like quips that the characters interact with, exploring this like world, and the shooting. Because like, if the shooting doesn't feel good to you, then I'd say cross off Ratchet and Clank from the list, because the shooting is where it's at, and that carries the whole thing forward. If you don't like the shooting in this game, then you probably aren't encouraged a whole lot to get through the story and go on this journey with the characters. But for me, I haven't played a better shooter this year, and I played Deathloop, and the shooting in that is pretty good.
Yeah, Deathloop's good, Resident Evil's good, like, good games, but I don't think they stood up to Ratchet and Clank as far as an overall experience.
Yeah. Just because,
also,
like,
the jet
again,
bits when
like,
you get them
it's
are
not
so
nominated,
fun.
but like, you think of Deathloop, and the whole point of Cylon is like different ways to kill enemies and take out targets. But Ratchet and Clank, like, there's so much variation in the weapons, and like, it goes an extra step because it's a cartoon, right? They don't have to obey like laws of physics or whatever. Like, they can just do weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I love the weird stuff.
Pixelizer.
Yeah, the pixelizer. So
And
that's why
it's
it's
not
for everyone, because like, just pulling in a trigger and shooting a gun feels good, right?
Metroid was fun, and the kicker of that one is it did return to form. I have a word which I'm assuming is what you guys will probably say about Ratchet and Clank. With Metroid, it returned to a form that we've been wanting for a long time. I'm not gonna fight on the difficulty. It's effing hard. It really is.
Oh yeah, it is.
Says the guy who has not played a Metroid game?
But I have seen Metroid games. I've watched Metroid games. And that's the thing. I know what they're supposed to feel like. There's a difference between this concept of never playing and not understanding what the game actually is supposed to feel like.
So
and that's the kicker. That's the kicker of the form. We already said Return of the King or the Queen. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Of all the characters, it's Samus. Samus Aran stands alone on top of the hill compared to the other two.
Yeah, let's not pretend like Samus is not the Ellen Ripley of video games.
Damn straight.
Let's not pretend that she isn't.
But everyone around Samus sucks.
It doesn't matter.
Samus is awesome. Everyone around her sucks. The bird people, Adam, no.
And the mini bosses of that game were so much more rewarding, in my opinion, that I think it's just Samus Aran.
Samus Aran. All right. You know the drill. Send me the round number and your...
Rose, you're a hooker. I said you'd be calling people hookers. I'm going to call you a hooker. How dare you do that?
You know what?
Oh, what am I going to vote? Right. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks balls.
We were supposed to be using that discussion time to figure out what to vote out, and I have no idea. I'm still as lost as I was. I'm gonna do it. I said I wouldn't do it, but I'm gonna do it.
God.
Okay. The results are in for that round. We have our first tie.
Shit.
Our first and only tie.
How?
John.
Oh, wait, I know how.
I'm going to need you to revote between the two games that tied. So you now must choose what dice.
Okay, all right. So I know the two.
Choose between Metroid Dread and It Takes Two, which were your two nominees.
I hate you both. I hate all of you. All right.
It's so hard.
Do you want me to say it out loud, or do you want me to? No, you know, I'm a man. I'll do this. I got this. I'm strong. I'm a strong, independent woman. I can do this.
Pretty princess.
I'm a pretty princess. Damn it. Okay.
It's so tough. I don't want to know.
I vote Metroid Dread. I vote Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread.
I call shenanigans.
No. I vote Metroid Dread out.
Okay.
This top three is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just across the board.
Yeah, Anyway. Okay, so we are now going into the final round. The timer will be 20 minutes, remember, Rose.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this is between It Takes Two
Yes.
and Ratchet and Clank.
Yes, these are the last two games. Out of these, we will choose a winner. And the decision process, or what am I looking for? The discussion segment begins now. Someone help.
Ratchet and Clank is only there because it builds off of what's something that it already builds off everything that it already has. Everyone remembers that you guys are singing the praises about the whole thing. What It Takes Two does is actually takes everything and makes it into one thing. It is a original IP, which we don't get those anymore. Everything nowadays is all sequels and reboots and remakes. That's something that it's easy, it's safe, it's something. That's all it does. Ratchet and Clank, that's all that is just it's a remake, it's a reboot, it's a sequel of something. Yeah, you get to jump the risks. That's cool. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's something. It looks like a Sony animation game. But what It Takes Two does is it is original IP. It takes on the concept of divorce and makes it interesting. I'm not going to spoil it for you, for anyone.
Father, take me to church.
I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. I am not going to do that. But it turns what it's not supposed to do. But it finds a happy middle ground for everyone. And you know what? It teaches love. It makes you go and makes it easy and accessible to actually reach out to a friend, which nowadays it's really hard to do that. So what we're doing right now is we're taking this concept of an IP, an original IP that we all say, every one of us has said we need more original IPs. That is what is going on in the gaming industry. But right now we're going on an original IP versus something that we're comfortable with. And if we're comfortable with something, then no one is going to change. But if we take this opportunity and go, we want something new, then the gaming industry registers that and they give us something new. It's not safe. It's not supposed to be safe. But you know what? Joseph Ferris isn't safe. He said the F word a lot with Jeff Keighley's thing.
For those of you wondering, yes, John is ordained, and yes, he will bring this kind of passion
Oh, yeah.
to your nostrils
I'm
if you ever
officially
want to
ordained.
book him.
Having to vote out Metroid Dread awoke something in him.
I blame Rose.
That's fine.
The fire has
Look.
been lit under the
Oh my
acid, John.
god.
I know how to poke the bear.
How do you dispute that?
I'm used to it after all these years.
So let me try and break that down, right? Okay.
Oh, good luck.
The crux of your argument was like something
Original IP versus
a
sequel.
known quantity versus something brand new and disruptive, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And
So, like,
look on
so
Twitter.
Is that,
Look-
is-
look on-
is that what
So
Game of the Year
shouldn't
means
the
to you?
game of
shouldn't the-
game of the year be something that breaks what you previously thought, brings a brand new experience to video games in general, and just does something completely new?
You talked about the concept of the crux being the two-player concept. I think that's exactly what it needs to be. We literally live in a world where it's either massive multiplayer online COD stuff or it's single-player stuff. So this is a game that actually chose to go, you know what, we're going to be different. We're going to actually make you play with someone else, make you communicate. That's something that we're not talking about. Like, I said it, but it actually made you communicate. And I'm not talking, hey, left side, right side, hey, I'm flanking someone, hey, I'm doing this. No, it's literally the story within the game itself made people, made Rose and I've seen other people play this game where they were literally like, oh, that's actually a really good question, and started talking about what was going on in the game personally with their lives, connecting more with an individual playing a game. And isn't that what games all are about? Having fun and connecting. And yeah, we can all talk about our individual experiences, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to It Takes Two, we're talking about a cohesive concept experience together, which is what games should be about. I am John. I'm ordained. Please tell me.
So you believe It Takes Two is like a disruptive, like a different thing going for it, you know, like really just doing its own thing.
Yes.
But like, think about playing through It Takes Two. Like, think about like all the very different sections in that game. And when you look at it, like, really, is it all something new, or is it just things that have been done before, assembled in a way that hasn't been assembled before? Like all of, like it does this
Isn't
intentionally.
that what something new is?
Yeah, isn't that the concept of being something new?
It does this intentionally, where it draws from stuff you have played before. Like, it expects you to know these
Wait,
gaming genres and have touchstones in them.
You mean it takes
as
your
a reference.
prior experiences and brings them into something and activates prior knowledge?
Right, but yeah, so like, how can you really call that new or disruptive in that case?
Because it made it right. It didn't rely on the concept of one thing. Ratchet and Clank is one thing.
If you want to take
It's a shooter.
taking...
Ratchet and Clank is a shooter from a PlayStation 2 era. That's what it is.
If you want to take things that you have
Glowed
reference
up
points
for
in
something
gaming,
perfect, something that's fun, and was able to actually
and that
show off the power
you
of
know
a console.
it's done well, platforming, shooting, collectathon.
But you know, actually, wait.
story,
We're going to talk. Wait,
graphics.
hold, time out. You want to talk about actually locking things out? It Takes Two is on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation.
Oh.
Ratchet and Clank is only on PlayStation 5. How many people actually have a PlayStation 5?
Right in the gut.
It isn't a PlayStation exclusive.
Some
At
people
least
still don't.
Can't
It Takes
get a
Two.
PS5.
It Takes Two can be played on PC. It can be played on the PS4. It can be played on the Xbox One and the series. It is more inclusive than Ratchet and Clank is right now because of the shortage.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw that one out there. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
We're talking about a game that actually did things
More accessible.
more accessible for a lot of people. And let's be honest. We talked to Keith over on Playdate. What did he do? He is in a group of people trying to jump into other D&D sessions. You cannot tell me there's a group of people out there going, hey, I'm looking for someone to play It Takes Two with. You know what that does? That brings more people in. That makes you find more friends. It's not so solo as Ratchet and Clank is.
So
About togetherness.
Tim, I'll direct it to you and sort of direct it to me as now as well, because this is a question I need to answer. Like, I can see, because the way John's laid, I can see how It Takes Two will stand the test of time. When we look back on the year 2021, we will talk about It Takes Two as something that was different, straight from the crowd. Do we think in 5, 10, 15 years' time, we'll look back on Ratchet and Clank and say, it's still one of the best in its genre, or do we think it will have been eclipsed? Because
So
It Takes Two is something, because it goes so far beyond the tech, it builds on the actual human connections between two people to enhance the experience. But Ratchet and Clank is, and it's not to be said lightly, but is just a very well-made game.
yeah, I mean, the way I look at it too, though, is like I'm looking at Insomniac's legacy, not just regarding Ratchet and Clank.
Why? We're just talking about Game of the Year of 2021. I don't give a crap
So-
about everything else because then I'd have to throw in Spider-Man.
Because we're talking-
Spider-Man's one of the
because we're
greatest
talking-
games of all time.
And so that's what I'm saying. If we're talking about memorability, like Spider-Man in its...
Why are we talking about Spider-Man?
Because it's
Because it's an
Insomniac.
Insomniac.
It's an Insomniac game.
It's not the game.
Yeah, and that is
talking
actually my
about
point.
We're not
That's
talking
talking
about
about games like
publisher. We're
Psycho.
talking about games.
Yeah, and
So-
that's kind of my point is that if you're going to pull in Insomniac, that I mean, we also already talked about A Way Out, and
Way
then
Out,
let's
yeah.
go ahead and bring in Brothers too. But if we have to vertical slice this bad boy. That's
Let
the
him
thing.
make the point first, because he might be tying it back to Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, my only thing was if we're talking about, like, memorability, like, I think that Ratchet and Clank stands up to the same quality as something like Spider-Man in terms of being a cohesive and tightly knit experience. Like something that is just a thrill through and through every step of the way, just a joy to play.
Copy and paste
And-
that, and you can put that on It Takes Two as well.
Okay, and
And I know you're coming out because you haven't seen it, so I'm
and
trying to fill
it's
in that
hard,
part.
It's hard for me having not seen it, and especially having not played it. I can't make any testament to the gameplay. Like, and it is so difficult for me, and it's why, like, it's hard for
Okay.
me to both vote for it and to vote against it. It's hard for me to
Okay.
go either way on it.
You know what? You did something really nice earlier with Psychonauts because I've never played it. You guys talked openly about some of the cons or some of the detriments. So what are some of the cons for It Takes Two and for Ratchet and Clank? Because I'm not very experienced with Ratchet and Clank. So what are some of the cons for both of those games?
So I'll tell you, like, the first thing that jumps to my mind is some of the vehicle stuff in Ratchet and Clank, right? When you're riding the bugs, or especially when you're riding that weird flying thing. I had so
Yeah.
many problems with that.
Yeah.
I had no
Okay,
idea
I was
where I
like,
was
what?
going. I had no
The-
idea how to control it. It was weird animations when you were trying to land it.
So it's, I will say the problem is specific high speed sections of the game.
Yeah.
Because there are moments where the game wants you to be moving fast, whether it's on the back of the bugs, like you guys have probably already experienced.
Yeah.
But later you'll get a very wide, big open world, and they'll give you jet boots. And when you're using those jet boots, for the most part, I had a pretty good experience with those. But there's like certain areas where they want you to make some like semi-precise jumps that it gets a little more difficult to really handle it. There's even like kind of almost like a race section with them that it's not necessarily hard, but it'll definitely catch you off guard while you're doing it the first time because it just takes a minute to wrap your head around what they're trying to make you do.
Would you agree that Ratchet and Clank has a lack of interesting boss battles?
Yes, that
They're
I
not
could
like-
say like
I've
bad.
experienced bad boss battles, and there's none of that in Ratchet and Clank. They're just fine. They're just
yeah,
standard.
they're it. I would say they're not even as interesting as older boss battles from the series because they're very much like there's not much in the way of like interesting patterns. Like
So,
Oh,
Tim,
go ahead.
are they more or less interesting and memorable than most of the boss battles in Kingdom Hearts 3? Just the boss battles within the game, not like the extra stuff or the optional bosses, but like just the in-game, you have to play these. Because I don't remember half the bosses in Kingdom
yeah,
Hearts
much
3.
much more interesting than any of the Kingdom Hearts 3
Okay.
bosses. Much more interesting.
Just making sure.
But that's one thing
Especially-
I
Played. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, you go ahead.
What sells the bosses in Ratchet and Clank more than their movements and patterns and anything, it's the personalities. That is like so much of Ratchet and Clank is just characters and
And that's
personalities, and especially both of the different Dr. Nefariouses. Dr. Nefarious is like one of my favorite like comedic villains in all of video
God,
games.
yeah, there's so many
Hands
great moments
down.
with him. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like,
Keith, you played Ratchet and Clank, right?
Yeah,
What'd you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good.
Any cons that you can think of?
Sometimes going too fast, I would clip into the earth and die.
Ooh.
damn.
I don't think I ever actually
That could be a
experienced a
problem.
clip.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
it kind-
I-
Sounds like something
I
I
never
would do.
experienced like something I would call a glitch in that game. I definitely experienced a few in It Takes Two for sure. Just
yeah,
from, like,
I did too.
Trying
There
to
were
get
some
to
just
areas that seemed like they should be places I could go, but
Well, and
weren't.
it's-
Yeah.
It's funny because I never like did anything like legitimately game breaking in Ratchet and Clank, and I tried to break that game.
Yeah.
That's the weird part to me. Like I definitely tried to like, you know, old school speedrunner brain activating. I was just like, I want to try to like climb this thing that I shouldn't be able to climb by like jumping and smacking down on it as I go up.
Yeah.
Like
I
just-
think
and I
and-
never broke it.
And when it comes to It Takes Two, again, it's rough around the edges at times. There are some glitches, and you're like, why did that happen? And I don't think it's a detriment. I actually, everything you said, Tim, is exactly how I thought of like Ratchet and Clank. The biggest difference is, and I've only had one boss battle, so I can't really say much. I think Finn can probably talk about this more. Is just how dynamic the boss battles actually were in It Takes Two. Like it was one of those. I don't remember how many bosses, but I could probably start naming off. Just there was the monkey boss battle, there was the Mortal Kombat boss battle, there was the mole boss battle, there was
the toolbox one where like
The
you're
toolbox
on
one,
working,
and-
toolbox was
yeah.
the
awesome.
toolbox was so
And-
cool because you're just like, what am I doing? And then it really is this relying on you have to do your part so I can do mine so we can continue on. And that was what I think It Takes Two does. And I think that is the whole design is I can't play this game alone. I have to rely on someone to do it. And detriment or not, it still made that concept so intriguing that it was like I'm going to be absolutely honest. I didn't think Rose was going to make it through this game.
I really
I
wasn't
didn't
sure.
think she was going to make it through this. I thought we were going to do about 6 episodes and call it a day. And she's like, I hate this game. And the more what it did was actually it built on the concept of what it is. And like, here's your new weapon. Here's how you use it. Here's how you use it together. Here's
Okay,
your side
but-
and here's their side.
But John,
Yes.
here's the thing. Here's the bad part. We're actually supposed to be thinking of cons for this game.
Well, like here's a con I can think of, like
Okay.
someone who's played both.
Other than you have to have two people.
Right. Again, there's like a similarity between these two things where like it's very character driven and you're working in two pairs. And largely, I would say, without spoiling much about the latter stages of either game, the ending and the ending sections of those games are not shocking. Like you sort of know where things are going pretty early on in both games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Ratchet and
I-
Clank, the ending felt triumphant, and I felt like, oh, that was really good. Yeah, I feel great. In It Takes Two, and this may just be me, I have no idea how anyone else felt about it. Again, might be like I couldn't empathize with the characters as much as some other people,
Sure.
but it just felt flat. Like the ending of that game, like the way it was resolved, just felt like,
And
you didn't really.
Would you like to know
excite
why
me.
I understand why I actually loved that ending?
Go ahead.
Because that's life. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
And
well,
On-
but like
Honestly,
Yeah.
the ending is like a French movie. Like it's an end.
it ends.
It's an end to the movie. It is not an end to the story. And it's a very unsettling thing, especially if you've watched a ton of American movies and you're used to it being wrapped up and it's got a nice
Triumphant
little
and-
bow on
yeah.
it. And it's the happy ending. Like it's so satisfying to get that. But then you come across a story that it just stops. And it takes a few of those storytellings to really get used to it and realize, okay, this really isn't that bad. So I completely
Yeah,
understand
it's shocking the
sitting
first
there
couple
going,
times.
Yeah.
I get that one.
And both Finn and I and Keith all should have had multiple experiences like that just through, at the very least, through the anime scene. Because I'm sure everyone can relate to that feeling, whether it's an anime or another TV show or whatever, where you get to the end of a show and like, even if it has a happy end,
Yeah.
you're like, it has a happy end, you're like, I'm sad
way
that
it
it's over.
stops.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm sad that it's over. Or if it's a neutral end, you're like, okay, I'm like kind of satisfied with where these characters ended up, but I want more. Like,
Yeah.
I did not walk out of It Takes Two and feel like how do I say this? Like, I don't feel like I walked away with
There was
something.
a resolution.
I don't feel like I walked away with something from that game.
See, and I feel like I did.
Yeah. And that's a
so-
game where it's just
but-
me. Like again, it's a very different thing from A Way Out. A Way Out is very cinematic, and the ending of that game is just, it's perfect. But it's very Hollywood. And again, like,
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from with this, but like, man, I think of like putting down the controller for both. And when I put down the controller for Ratchet and Clank, I sat there for a minute and like thought about, like, it's not a very thought-provoking game, but just like the experience and the action was enough to like get me going. But I set down the controller for It Takes Two, and I just started talking with my friend about something else that day. You know what I mean? Like,
let Keith shoot his shot. Real quick.
Absolutely.
So it's a little one that I like to call, if you did not know Joseph Fares made the game or any of his previous works, would you have bought this game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. 100% mainly.
Yeah, but for,
It
like,
sold me on.
very specific Finn reasons of like 3D platformers and colorful, and like, even if it was jank, I would still love it.
Yeah. The art style.
Just the idea of what it
I really
promised
do
me.
go to
And
say that it would not have sold as well had it not had the prestige of Brothers and
Right.
A Tale of Two Sons.
No,
That
absolutely.
doesn't
Say-
speak to the quality of the game at all. Like, sales are irrelevant.
Tell me whether I'm right or wrong, because for better or worse, I don't know if this makes sense, but the image that I get as you guys keep describing this game is I keep getting brought back to playing Lego Star Wars.
no, because
Like,
I
that's
hate Lego
exact-
Star Wars. I'm going to be absolutely honest. I absolutely
no idea.
Because
I
John
hate,
hates any
I
Lego
hate the
game.
Lego games straight up. I think they're the worst games. I don't find them
He's only
fun.
played. He has only played co-op in Lego games, and co-op is not
And-
the way
and
that
I'm
you
just-
want to play
it's
Lego
not my
games.
thing.
What I've seen.
That's how I always played them.
Yeah,
with my
it's-
brother or with my nephews
Yeah,
or whatever. And this sounds like the same kind of thing, both in the communicative and triumphant aspects, and in the communicative rip each other's throats out aspects.
I mean, if that's how they're supposed to be played, then yeah, there was that, like, and it was talking about that one. It was like it stuck with me, Rose and I, because we were like, wow, it ended. We did it. We did it together, and we were able to pull this off together. Where it was my lane, your lane, our lane concept, and that's what sells this game for me.
Did you ever feel in It Takes Two, because I definitely felt this, where like, because the variation was so strong and like different chapters were completely different from all the other chapters, and you gain new tools and new abilities, do you ever feel like it was like ripping away a toy, where it was like, oh man, I was having so much fun with that and I was just getting used to it?
Yeah, a couple times.
And it
I'll
was
even
just
admit,
like-
like one of the levels I hated was the underwater level. I hated that level.
Yeah, and like, you could have just cut that part of the
Yeah,
game
if you-
and
yeah.
made the other sections
I
long.
think I even said that in a recording. I'm like, we could have cut this out, and it still would be. It'd be a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it.
And that's time.
I could talk for 20 hours about all these games.
Yeah.
These are two games
These
that
are-
are just. This is going to be a rough divide, and like I'm going to be honest, I think Finn's going to be the deciding factor on this
Oh,
one.
I know I am, and that was what
Yeah, you
makes it
are.
worse.
Probably.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, he's gonna be
Right,
good.
okay, everyone send me their votes just to confirm, but I am not going to look because I have to think about this now.
But
No, it's
can't.
too late. It's done. It's done.
oh, is it done? So can I say it? Can I say
Yeah,
it?
you can say
If it's
whatever you
done?
want to say. It's
You
too
would have
late for me
not
to
gotten
change.
that rant if it was Metroid Dread. I'll be absolutely honest with you. You got to see John in his prime, ready to go.
Oh, the rant.
Okay. Damn, this hurts.
John and his come to Jesus moment.
You can call me Padre John.
All right. After all is said and done, we have whittled down 6 great games. We are now left with one that stands.
Do you want to go back and list
Yes.
the 6?
So I'll list them off in order of when they were eliminated. Little Nightmares 2 was eliminated in the first round. Then Psychonauts 2. Then Tales of Arise. Then Metroid Dread. And we were left with It Takes Two and Ratchet and Clank. After all the votes are tallied, the game that stands among the rest, It Takes Two.
Whoa.
Wow.
the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
So can I ask what it came down to?
No.
Okay.
Because I couldn't give you an answer. I really couldn't. It was just gut. It was just pure emotion.
That's fair. Hey,
in
you
the
know,
moment.
gut is
my
gut, man.
fingers went to the keyboard and I just started typing on their own. That's what it was. Because both of these games
So
are
good.
so fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm having such a blast with Ratchet and Clank. I'll be absolutely honest with you. I freaking love the game. I understand why it's here, and I understand why it's been nominated. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. So
And that's the thing. I know that I came after Tales of Arise hard, but honestly, these have all been great
All
games.
fantastic.
yeah,
Every single one.
And knowing more about Tales of Arise now, I'm actually much more willing to go and actually give it a try.
it's so unfortunate. Also, like I'm just gonna say, it's so unfortunate that we didn't do this before Black Friday, because like half the games on this list went on
We're on
sale for
sale.
Black Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, choose.
Like I literally bought Cyberpunk or not Cyberpunk.
Oh,
What
God.
the hell? Power of Christ.
Yeah.
Psychonauts.
Yeah.
That's So I literally bought Psychonauts, Tales of Arise, and I know it's not here, but Deathloop, like all for like $40 a pop.
Yeah.
The only reason I didn't buy like something like, and once again, no, it's not here. Rip Returnal.
Oh, God.
The only reason I didn't buy Returnal is because I had it. The only reason I didn't buy it was because a friend was like, "Yo, don't worry about it. I'll lend you my copy."
There you go.
Like, but Tales of Arise, like I can't personally say whether or not someone should invest $60 in it, but I got it for like $40, and I 100% think it's worth that at minimum.
Keith, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, this time 2 weeks ago, I sat down and had Tales of Arise installed on my PS5 and my controller in my hand. And I didn't start it because I had 2 hours that night before I went to bed, and I knew I was leaving the next day and leaving my PS5. And I didn't want to start it and have that sinking feeling in my gut. If I had started this game even, I think the discussion could have been completely different, to be honest.
Yeah, and like if it tells you anything, and yes, I'm an idiot who plays on the hardest difficulties in games of franchises that I have never touched in my life before. But I sunk in like 8 hours to that game before I beat the first boss.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God.
like, and not even like required time. That was all just me being an asshat and like trying to fight super bosses in the starting area because it was fun for me. I was just like, I want to see how much damage I can do to this thing that's gonna obliterate me in a single hit. Like, and I love seeing that kind of openness. Like even playing Xenoblade 2, like that's a thing. Like you're wandering areas and there's just like giant enemies around that it's like, you want to touch it?
Even outside of this list, man, there's so many games I just did not put a thing into and could have changed the whole thing. Returnal, Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite
God.
multiplayer, like, there's so much. It's unreal.
And there's so much I could have sunk my time into, yet I chose RPGs that like had like
That's
80
just-
hours a pop.
That's just you, baby. That's what you do.
prerogative. That's your prerogative.
That's what you got.
Look, that's what you do, along with Tim with his going the hardest difficulty that's possible. That's just
you,
what you
baby.
do. If that's what you enjoy, then do it.
Yeah.
I wish I sunk more time into Returnal, I'll be honest. I've been trying to jump back into it, and especially
need
after the
to-
patch.
Because I think
I
about...
need to like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I will say I need to buy Metroid for myself because I got it on loan from a friend and I like beat it in 11 hours, 100%. I loved every fucking minute of it.
I'm going to play
every
more of that
minute
game,
of it.
yeah. And like, I think about what my main problem with Metroid Dread is it felt like a very old game, and it felt like it had very like old game
Antiquated.
design philosophy, right? Where I think of
Yeah.
like Returnal as like what it is at this like weird mix of roguelike and Metroidvania. And you're like, if I had played more of that and it had gotten like a few things right, and it had like the save feature from day one that they just patched in, could have easily like topped this list for me.
So maybe not in the roguelike aspect, but Finn, just wait. Because, boy, you need to be introduced to the Metroid Prime series.
Right, yeah, I have not even began. Yeah.
That's, oh man. If you're looking for like a more updated take, it's the ultimate. Like in my opinion, I I've only played Prime 1 and I love it. I absolutely love it. I need to play the rest because I have the trilogy on Wii.
So, wrapping this up, first of all, I think a round of applause due to both It Takes Two and all the nominees tonight.
Yeah.
I have no hands.
Congratulations. Congratulations to Here's Like EA on It Takes Two receiving the prestigious accolade of our Game of the Year. We enjoyed this discussion and hope you did too. If you did, consider giving us a subscribe, a like, and a comment below about what your Game of the Year was, what you agreed with us, what you didn't, and give us all your takes. If you want to see more of us talking about video games throughout the year, you can find our weekly podcast on YouTube and podcast services, as well as streamed live every Saturday over on Twitch. We have the Playdate monthly podcast, which you can catch now. There should be the latest one that is December, should be released now on podcast services and on YouTube. If you want to see us do some live reactions to Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards, which is happening this Thursday, December 9th, over at twitch.tv/NowToPlayGames. Be sure to give us a follow while you're there so you don't miss any of our upcoming live streams. Thank you to all the game developers across the globe this year for keeping us entertained with great games. Thank you to the panel tonight for joining me this evening, and thanks to all of you for being here with us. Thanks for watching, and good night.